T, greatest of all time.
Elliot.
What?
Elliot. 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 Elliot.
Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I am Sly.
And I am, footy porn is good porn, spook.
Spook, what do you
Yes.
think about our win against the Adelaide Crows?
Emphatically good.
That good, huh? Mm-hmm. You think we're premiership favourites again?
Oh, I'm back on board.
You're back on board.
It's only one game, but I'm back on board.
Well, it's been a build-up over 3 games. Beat Gold Coast, I know they're not much. Beat Melbourne, I know they're not much. Beat Adelaide, you can say they're not much. But it's gradually they've built and they've looked better for longer periods. And probably the most promising thing about this win is really expecting them just to take the foot off the pedal last quarter and to,
Blow the percentage?
Yep, and to let Adelaide kick a few lazy ones and for us to win by, 5 goals or 4 goals. But we actually put our foot down on their throat and we crushed them.
Good. More of that, thanks.
Is
Only 7 more to go.
it 7?
I have no idea.
Well, it'll be 4 if we make the 4. But I'll get to that later. Looks like there's a lot more system, there's a lot more run. I said to you earlier, I haven't seen Treloar on the outside running so much since last year before he blew both hamstrings. Mm-hmm. Side bottom is now starting to look a little bit damaging again, running around. I mean, he's credited for his elite running, which is great if he was in a marathon, but a lot of times he runs around and does nothing, I think. But the last few weeks he's been really damaging. Probably the most promising thing for me.
Elliot.
Yes, so he's part of the most promising thing for me. Elliot was fantastic. After you wrote him off for the last 2 weeks running, he has looked... he looked brilliant on... When was it? Saturday mid-afternoon? Saturday twilight, whatever time it is.
Yep.
But that whole forward line, Varco now looks like a goal kicker.
Yep.
He doesn't look like the same guy who, about a month ago, we were saying... It was really just you. I've never said a bad word about him. But really just saying that, hey, he looks like he's coming toward the end of his career. The way he's played the last few weeks, he's kicked couple of goals in several games. He's actually going for goal. He's got a bit of selfishness there. He's got a bit of creativity there. Instead of sort of playing just that mindless defensive forward role. And like that defensive forward role was good like when they had someone like Goldsack doing it a few years ago, where he's just really a dour, gritty defender. He doesn't have those streaks. Varco has pace and a bit of elasticity in that.
No,
and that's
great
putting it
base
to
on
effect.
this. Yeah, instead of trying to hit blokes,
Yep.
he's actually now dodging them and kicking goals.
Well, I don't mind if he hits
I
blokes
I
still,
like
but-
this one.
yeah.
I like this Varks. No, I think it's clear that structure-wise, it's almost like the pennies dropped that what worked last year might be worth having another crack at it now.
Well, Varco's kicked 2-2 that game. Josh Thomas kicked 3. So
Yeah, I was
Josh
going to
Thomas
say,
got-
he's gotten back into it.
and Hoskin Elliott kicked 2-2.
Your favourite whipping boy?
Yeah.
Bit of egg in the face, I see today?
No.
No, okay.
What? One game doesn't mean he's back.
Anyway,
Anyway,
it does.
Yeah.
You know how this works.
but they've looked a lot better. Roughhead going up there. He's not really hitting the scoreboard or anything, but he's getting them some structure. Mychek just tries, every game he runs really hard. But those smalls look really dangerous. And the thing I noticed, and I'm only watching on television with the scintillating commentary of Anthony Thunderbird Hudson and Jonathan Brown and
Something's going wrong.
I like Mark Rasciuto, but it looked like they were still rotating through full forward at times. I saw Varco down there at times, so it really seems to be recreating the structure of last year.
Yeah, I'll tell you what other thing that worked exceptionally well is the
Kicking goals?
the first quarter they still went the bomb a little bit too often, and it was just completely splatting all over the shop. But the minute they started dropping their eyes and kicking the ball hard and to a lead, it's amazing how many goals came out of that.
Yeah, and
It's not rocket science, is it?
No, but it's also like, you kick into leads at times, it's not always going to mark it, but at least it's not kicking to the advantage of the opposition, intercepting markers and defensive smalls who then just sweep it away, which we've done time and time again.
And it's also, too, I think, the way the forward line's been running the last couple of months, it's been like watching the end of Benny Hill, where it's just a whole lot of random running to some really catchy tunes. But to this time, they were actually playing quite smart too. The way that they ran away and gave some spread and gave Elliott space to work in. And one-on-one, he was killing whoever it was, the defender that was trying to stop him. And that was really clever, the way that they were utilising that to their effectiveness. It's that sort of tactic that you wish they'd employ and become a little bit smarter at doing more often. Well, Stevenson, when he comes in, is that perfect sort of fall for that type of behaviour. And I'm really, and of course I'll probably live to regret this, but I'm really getting enthused about seeing Stevenson and this incarnation of Elliott running around in the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
Yeah, well, hopefully they don't run into each other and cut each other's leads.
That'd be the Collingwood way.
The way they started the year, they really seemed to be conscious of easing Elliott into the game, but it came at the sacrifice of the other forwards' functionality. If they bring Stevenson back and they can keep that balance there, I don't know who goes out, because now you got like Thomas and Varco hitting the scoreboard, and Callum Brown, I think's one of the better creative small forwards there.
Well, this is what we touched on last week. There's going to have to be 3 expendables.
And we'll look at that in a bit later. The other thing I noticed, like when I was going through the possessions, that a lot of the possession getters are coming out of the defensive half. So Pendle's got 34, Maynard got 30, Chris got 29, Treloar got 27. So even though Treloar's figures have actually come down since Adams got back, because he's not in there getting those little handballs.
And it's also that, what we've been screaming for is having 2 inside mids in there is really then taken a lot of his junk positions that Treloar were getting was from being at the arse end of a pack where he can't do anything. But now on the outside he's going to get less, but they're going to be a lot more damaging.
Yeah, he's run. Like I said, I've never seen him run so much. In the last 3 weeks he's actually been running again. Treloar 27, Adams 24, Main 24, which is a big game for Main. Howe 23, Noble.
How did he do it?
Well, how does he do it time and time again?
Like this joke, time and time again.
Noble 20, Wills 20. So you got Maynard.
Noble 20, did he?
Yeah.
Good on him.
Maynard, Cruz. I thought he started scratchy, but he got into it when they all got running.
He was rusty as bull bugger in the first quarter.
We'll go to that in a minute. But Maynard, Crisp, Main, Howe.
How did he do it?
Thanks, Anthony Hudson.
FAB.
That's for all the defenders in there getting possessions, and Greenwood was only a little bit lower than that. So it's just showed they got a lot of run out of it. But it's also like you look at it and you think, you get a few of these guys running, and other guys start clicking into place. And I thought in the first quarter and a bit, even though Adelaide were getting statistically more of the ball and attacking their goals more, I never actually felt like they were in danger of wresting the game away from us, as it's felt with other clubs like GWS and shit like that. It just felt like we needed to click into gear and find some synergy, and then we were just going to start scoring, which is what we ended up doing. But it felt like we were running, we were creating space, which is the best. I actually think it's the best we've looked since we played Smash Brisbane about 28 rounds ago, and Port Adelaide's probably the other one. All the other games have been really scratchy, and there's just been bursts here and there, which has gotten us over the line. So
great.
The one query is we still lost the centre clearances, which is disappointing. Grundy got 40 taps to me. He looks a little bit tired. It's probably the best word.
You ain't going to be rested now.
Yep. And the really good thing, I don't know, I mean, if, could check statistics, I would, but I'm lazy. We outscored Adelaide in every quarter, which I thought was really encouraging. The first quarter they had more shots, but we put the goals on the board and we just sort of kept building. And like we already said last quarter, we expected it to just go by the wayside, but we kept our foot down. It was a really good effort. Big shout outs to Jack Magden. I don't know how you pronounce it. How do you pronounce it, Jack?
Magden.
40, showed a little
40
bit
possessions.
40
that was
possessions,
some game.
Yes, but he showed some mongrel, showed some elegance in the way he played. He looked handy. I don't know if that's going to be his level or not.
Yeah, look, I thought he looked incredibly composed. And then some of his decision making was quite good, because you're a little bit iffy around him, and it really makes you look back to when Appleby was played against WS. Why we overlooked. No, he didn't play Magnan then, did he?
No,
it was Shazberg was the other one that didn't come in. But why he didn't actually get into that side a little bit earlier when they took a risk with other types is a bit of a. I don't think he was that bad last year. He wasn't brilliant, but he solidly filled that role, and now he's given an opportunity to do that again.
One of the problems last year with Magden is, I think his first game was against Buddy Franklin. It's like, Buddy beat him. Jeez. Well, he must be shit, Magden, if he couldn't shut down Franklin.
Oh, what was he thinking?
in previous games, he's sort of done like one or two things where you're going, oh, okay. But the last few games, he's been really good. I don't know how far he can get, but he's shown that he's got enough to work with. If we get our full complement of players back, he'll drop down the list. But, he's doing everything right to put his name forward constantly.
Oh, definitely.
When they went with Appleby against GWS, I think it was just really they're conscious of trying to get that run and rebound out of defence.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Well, they were going with Appleby, Quaynor and Noble during that, and you see they brought Noble back. So again,
that's almost 10 games of experience.
Yeah, it is. The only queries are still taking a little while to actually get going and click into place. So they'll need to hit their marks earlier because we've gone from like the highest scoring first quarter team to, the last few games have really struggled. It hasn't been until about midway through the second quarter where we've gone bang. Oh, okay, let's go for it. Rupert Wills, you're a convert now?
Yeah, I actually did think he was fairly ordinary back in the day, but I appreciate he was used all over the shop. But I've become a bit of a closet fan over the last couple of weeks, and that's not so much about he's got breakaway pace or skills to burn, but he's just tenacity and his attack, and he's just a beast at tackling, and he's just really providing opportunities when the ball comes into a pack, and he's certainly looking like someone who's going to stay for the rest of the year there.
So you think he's better than Patrick Cripps?
Definitely.
No doubt.
I definitely think.
The thing I really like about Wills, he gets tackled, he doesn't panic. Like there was one tackle he got swung around like 1.5 times, and he just sort of kept looking for an option. It was like, I'm not going to just handle it anywhere. And this is what I've always said about him. He does seem to have that bit of composure. Like, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to try and get rid of it to our advantage rather than you get players, and we've had him in the past, it's like, oh shit, I'm going to get a tackle here. You have the ball. He just wears it, and he reminds me of Ruckman at times because he gets tackled, but he'll get his hands above the tackle so they're out so he can handball out. But like, I'm glad he can, he's doing really well. Between Adams, so we've got like 4 inside mids now. Adams, Wills, Sire, and Phil in. Any final thoughts about this game?
No, I mean, I think at the end of the day, and I said this to you in a message at this towards the end of the first quarter, that Adelaide is shit.
They are shit.
They are shit. And we did to
but you still got to do it. Yeah, you still got to do it. You got
what had to be done, and it was good that they actually managed to carry it off and execute it all the way through it. And as you said, finished it with some aplomb as well, and boosted that percentage. I don't think there's anything really else you could have done in that game. They just ticked most of the boxes exceptionally well.
Yep.
Except for the start, but as you said, the end result is what we care about.
Yeah. My final comments. Great commentary. It's great to hear how House should be fined for taking a dive. How it's a blight on the game, and then Darcy Fogarty did it the next corner. It was like, he exaggerated that a little bit, just a little bit, and that was it. That was the whole comment. Jonathan Brown going on about we've got to get Scharenberg off Taylor Walker.
Oh yeah, that was incredible. Walker finished with 9 possessions and kicked it behind. Yeah, that clearly had to come off of him.
Yeah, but he looked dangerous.
Who, Berg? Yeah, I agree.
No, Walker. You get that feeling that he's up and running. I don't know. Commentary. You just keep hitting new lows. Like I said, I like Mark Rashudo. When Rashudo played for Adelaide, and if you listened and you didn't know he played for Adelaide, you wouldn't know. He has no bias or anything. He just calls it as it is. And I think he's really insightful. There's like a few commentators I think are really good, and there's others who've got jobs because they're former footballers. I don't mind Jonathan Brown at times.
What about the Thunderbird puppet then? He's neither.
He's terrible.
It's like someone's pulling his strings.
FAB speak. Alright, we'll be back with Medium Acidic.
Oh, I like this segment.
Oh, cool. We're back with Medium Acidic. Spook.
Yes.
Collingwood has been in the media.
Have they?
Mephidically.
You don't often hear that.
No. You sent me this one. Levi Greenwood was on radio talking about the turmoil in the list when he arrived at Collingwood.
Yeah, so what he got there in 2015, I think it was.
He's been there for about 100 years,
And he was talking on the radio about the division back in the playing list back then. Obviously, he copped it all third hand. It was probably a whole bunch of dobbers. But clearly sounded like that the pressure that Bucks was under back then was clearly trying to manage the two clear ranked divisions inside of the... And then we obviously know what happens. They disassembled it and moved it on. But it was just interesting to hear that perspective. Because other than that, it's always been hearsay. I'm sure what he said isn't earth-shatteringly new. But it's nice to hear it from someone who was there in the inner sanctum, not just someone who posted on a bulletin board.
Yeah, I recall someone really learned and wise and insightful, say, last year.
That'd be me.
No, it was me. Just saying, I wouldn't be surprised, like, 10 years down the track if the stories start coming out about how fractured the playing group was because of what happened. And I don't think it was Buckley's fault or Malthouse's fault.
No.
I think it was just
what it is.
The management of that whole situation was terrible. Just while we're talking about the fractured playing group, Daisy Thomas retiring at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts about him? Because they mentioned this on Twitter, and then I just saw people giving him shit, and it was just like, why?
I'd have him back in a heartbeat. And if he was, like, you'd obviously get him exceptionally cheap. But, he had a great year. He's been playing well. I think they cut him prematurely. I think it was the choices, obviously, between him and Cade Simpson. Simpson, hey? And I would have... I think there's a lot of Blues supporters I know that are actually quite... I remember when they were quite questioning and angry towards why they had him, but he's converted a lot, and they're all a little bit angry.
Well, a lot of that was because of the cost that he came to the club. It was just $750,000 reportedly. I'll take him back and play him as a small forward because he has small forward now. I know he's been playing more as a halfback for Carlton, but I sort of think we're probably overstocked there. With Daisy, I think because of the flashy blonde hair and shit like that, a lot of people just looked at him like a sporadic, goal sneak, did nothing else. And I used to tell people who criticise him, they'll go, you don't see the way this guy attacks the packs, you don't see the hard stuff he does, you don't see all the gut running he does. And between 2010-11, I thought he was the best player in the league, and I thought he was like pretty much a prototype Nathan Five. He did, different build and all that, but he ran, he was fast, he could take a good mark, he could kick goals. Unlike Five, there's no disrespect to Five, Daisy had that X factor to create something out of nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And then in 2012, he did his ankle, and whether he rehabbed that correctly or not, that's not the question. He really came down to the pack after that. And I think he took a while to find himself once he went to the Carlton. But,
To the Carlton.
To the Carlton.
To the Carlton.
Yeah, to the Carlton. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was a bit of a prat when he played Collingwood. He was a bit of a troublemaker, which used to annoy me, but I have nothing respect for him, as a player.
He was one of my favourite players, and he was just an awesome finals player.
Oh, yeah.
He gave 150% every time that we played a final back then. And he was just a joy to watch. I mean, him and Maxwell, I think, were two of my favourite finals players at Collingwood. But Daisy had him edged out.
Oh, Daisy, no disrespect to Maxwell, but Daisy was freakishly talented. And it was a shame that his ankle really levelled him, because I think people forget he was a great player. I mean, it's like Luke Ball, different players, but Luke Ball, before he had the osteitis pubis, he was an amazing inside mid. And they were comparing him with Judd and Hodge at that time. But then when he did the osteitis pubis, he went from, amazing superstar to like human, but still a good player. And injuries, it doesn't take much to take that edge off your game to come down to the pack. Where am I too?
So what's Robbo done this week?
Oh, no. We'll get to that at some point.
Oh, okay.
So Greenwood also talked about how Buckley has mellowed. So it'd be actually interesting if today's Buckley had taken over the list 8 years ago, how he would have treated the Heath Shaw.
How he would have treated him.
How he would have done it again and again. How he would have treated, the Heath Shaws, the Daisies, the Didacks and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, there'd have to be a massive benefit of hindsight, surely.
Yeah. But I just, in terms of like, I imagine Buckley went in there with a bit of an agenda to say, let's rebuild this club with, let's get the troublemakers out. We just want to go forward, and this is the way we're going to do it. If you don't fit, then get lost. Whereas now, I think you might try and actually reach him and say, come across. Anyway, do you know Collingwood is second on the ladder for time?
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, that's where
Top four, you beauty.
That's where we belong, second. Second in the ladder for time in front of games. So Geelong's in front, 66%. We're 61%.
That's not bad.
And West Coast is 60%. And this stat gets you nothing.
Oh.
Do you know there was a game we were in front for about 95%? And then...
I don't want to go there.
Why not?
Ever again.
Sam Murray fronted the anti-doping tribunal.
Yeah, did he take any little bags with him?
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to go there.
Apparently took a credit card with him. He was that confident.
Well, they haven't announced the punishment yet, but I do have sources that the AFL has given him the number 1 draft pick as a punishment. So spend that wisely, Sam. Braden Sy signs a 2-year deal.
Fill in.
Yeah, and then he plays for his mate's basketball team under the name of Phil In.
One of the funniest things I reckon I've heard in a long time. What a performance! I think I heard or read today that he's been fined. He's not going to get suspended.
No, he's got to do community service and stuff.
No, thanks for the entertainment. I mean, the whole week it's just been nothing but laughs.
And
that's the way that sort of thing should be treated. I mean, really, look, you can understand from a perspective that, all right, you're coming off injury, maybe, getting out there and having a bit of a fucking run up and down with the basketball wasn't exactly an Einstein moment. However, though, that filling gag and stuff, it's been gold.
Loved it. If he just filled in as John Smith or something, it would have been like, oh, what a dickhead. But it's like, that's pretty funny. It's pretty cool. Can you imagine his mates standing around? I signed my name as Phil In. Nobody will ever know.
No one's got a camera up there, have they?
No. Well done, Braden.
Check it up, mate.
Yeah. David King says the VFL model is unprofessional, given it's meant to be a feeder league, and yet it has buys and shit like that.
Oh, it's ridiculous. This time of year, as I said last week, this time of year, that competition should be there to get runs into the legs of blokes.
That's what he was saying.
And it's just ridiculous. You have a break now. So, was it this weekend or this weekend?
No, it was last weekend.
Yeah,
so Wells is back.
Wells didn't get a run. So someone can get a run this week in the VFL if they aren't playing in seniors. It would be Moody. But other than that, it's just a break. And then the thing that really irks me a little bit now is even after next week, there's another break before the real final starts. So that's another disruption for those trying to get some run back in their leagues coming back. Can they go back to the VFL and play? You wouldn't take that risk, though, with the likes of Mood or anything like that. You wouldn't think.
I don't know, no.
But there is another VFL game where they have a bye as well.
No, I've got no idea.
Because they play a game, then they have 2 byes, and they play a game, then they have another 2 weeks off. They play about 6 minutes of footy a year in the VFL.
I mean, David King posed it should just be entirely a feeder league with don't worry about even playing for wins and shit like that, which I think is wrong because you still need to have that competitiveness in it.
Oh, definitely.
Ingrained into players, but he's talking about, its needs primarily to serve its function as feeding the senior clubs, which I think is right,
Yeah, but have your buys, but have them the same time as when the AFL has it.
Yeah.
And then just have that run here in the second half of the season. That's not rocket science.
I'll even have the buys.
Just fix it. Who's running the VFL?
I mean, the buys in the AFL...
Let's pot them.
The AFL buys are meant to be because the fixture is so strenuous at AFL level. At VFL level, I don't imagine it's as strenuous, so surely you should be able to just...
Play the season.
And you should be able to actually play...
Old school football.
I reckon it'd be great if they played during the bye, because then you could promote that as here's our feeder league and shit like that. But also, if, for example, you had a player come back 1 week before the bye, you played him in the AFL, and he said, I'm going to send you back down for that week, and then we'll pick you back up, when our season resumes. Because that's the way it should be. You should always be able to get run into the legs of your players.
Definitely.
Rather than the way it's structured. I found this really, really interesting.
I hope this is interesting.
It is really interesting.
You set a high example now.
Yeah. Did you know, and this is in the David King article, Richmond's side VFL side, had 17 AFL listed players.
17, huh?
Yeah. In the VFL side. We don't even have 17 AFL listed players in our AFL side.
But there's an injury crisis at Richmond. Have you been following the media for the last 2 months?
No.
They've been struggling to field a team.
Pies to make the Goey bulletproof for the finals, and the way they're going to do this is they're just going to give him super extra rest. So this is the 10-day injury, which is now in week 10.
Hang on a second, can we just revisit this headline? Pies to make someone bulletproof?
Yeah.
I mean, if you encased them in lead, I'd buy that statement.
I don't actually... See, what annoys me? It's like...
Everything?
Yeah. But the other thing on top of that is giving the guy extra time to rehab doesn't make him bulletproof if you don't actually address the cause of why that's happening.
No.
You just...
You're reducing the likelihood of it happening sooner.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. And you're not reducing the likelihood of happening sooner through any great medical rehabilitation. It's just mathematics. We're bringing him back 1 week later, so it's likely to happen 1 week later.
Yeah, look, I'm inclined with these guys too. That look, I can understand the need to try and get them in and playing finals, but there's no point in them doing that if they're going to break down in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Surely this is the time now where you get them out playing in Well, you probably, at least at a minimum, should be playing VFL, I would have thought, as a run-in.
Yeah.
Now, you could only play a half in the VFL. And if you're good enough, no clown's going to come and drop you and cause an injury. But at least you're getting some match conditioning going into that. At the moment, as it stands now, Steph, well, obviously he can't play. And he'd be training the house down, no doubt. And hopefully De Goey's in a similar situation. But none of them got match conditioning behind them. Look, Steph, I think, as a younger body and a lithe body, will probably compensate for that pretty quickly with but De Goey's he's that sort of player that if without having that run and the strength in those muscles, you figure he's at a greater risk of doing something, doing a mischief to himself.
How do you feel about? I mean, generally all the football clubs do it, but Collingwood really seem to do it.
What?
Them being
mass injuries?
Well, they're really good at doing that, but them being cute with the injury reports of saying, "Oh, he's 10 days away," and 5 weeks later,
hamstring awareness. I think those Moores about 7 months ago.
Well, I saw Isaac Quain. I was looking at the injury report. He had a stress reaction. It was like, what?
Foot.
It's like, but I mean,
it's freaking me out.
They've done that constantly with players like, the running joke of someone's 2 weeks away for the whole season. Moore did a slight hamstring. That was 6 weeks ago. How do you feel about them being cute rather than just saying, yeah, he's out for 6 weeks?
Yeah, obviously you can't lay all your cards on the table, but it's pretty goddamn obvious when they can't roll up each week that you've been bending the truth. And the opposition clubs that obviously know that they're bending the truth, I think you should be honest to a degree of close to being certain.
But what do you get out of lying?
I've no idea. There's no advantage in it. You're frustrating the supporter base. Now,
that's the only thing.
It's not really about us. It's about them managing it and keeping some cards close to their chest.
But
it doesn't benefit anybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What advantage is it? Because there's surely no football club like Essendon this week. They're surely not sitting there going, well, let's plan for De Goey in case they play him, and let's plan for this and that. They would see by injury reports and shit, he's highly unlikely to play. Come Thursday, he's not named. Collingwood's not going to suddenly select him and take a fine. So it's like, what are you actually getting out of lying? It's not actually, benefiting the club in any way. It's not giving you any advantage.
No.
It's not fooling opposition. I mean, I think the only time injury misreport fooled and psyched out an opposition was in 2002, going into the qualifying final against Port Adelaide. Buckley had a hammy. And everyone expected Malthouse to bring him back. And Malthouse just said, we're not playing him. And it was almost that reverse psychology of like, Port's going, oh, yeah, we're going to plan for Buckley. And then come that game, we didn't play Buckley. And it was like, Port's going, oh, okay. What do we do now,
We might go and lose this one.
And they didn't sort of anticipate Lucuria would have a blind and all that. But it was just like, that was the only time I ever saw someone misreporting, or actually Malthouse was telling the truth. It was like everyone else's assumptions that Buckley was going to play. But that's the only time I've ever seen any foxing leading to any psychological advantage. I just don't see the point of it here.
No, I agree.
So, just tell the truth, Collingwood.
The truth is out there.
From the tackle. So, who writes the tackle?
Wills now.
Who else writes the tackle?
Oh, I don't know. Some journo.
Pies are a better forward unit without Mason Cox. With Cox playing this year, the Pies have an 8-6 win-loss record, average 82 points, and score from 43% of their forward 50 entries. Without Cox, they have a 6-1 record, average 95 points a game, and score from 47% of their entries. How do you feel about that?
I thought the minute that he was out that we'd be, obviously, without being silly, be less Cox-centric with the way that we sent the ball into the forward line. Obviously, when he's there, we seem to think that bombing it in from 100 kilometres away is the way to go. He either clunks it or he brings it to the ground and provides some sort of contest. But he was doing neither really towards the injury. He had a couple of good games, but he was just not really what you were hoping was going to happen. And I think part of that was preventing the rest of those forwards playing their natural type of games too. No one was really sitting there and feeding or crumbing or anything like that off that pack. And now that he's out of there, it's forced them to go back to that sort of style of forward line that was working well last year, and then it's starting to gain some momentum now.
So I just think they fell into trouble with bombing, and I mean part of it, which, this really shit assumption written by Mark Robinson totally overlooks is Cox was playing during that time. That there was no Adams, no Sy, no Wills in the midfield. That midfield was glacial. By the time they were getting the ball anywhere near forward, they're just bombing it blindly. And people are going, "Oh, Cox is a dud. He couldn't mark." It's like no one was going to mark the way you were delivering that ball. And unfortunately, I think they fell into the trap we should have done with Travis Cloak and they did with Anthony Rocca. It's like, these guys are really good contested marks, so we can just bomb it and they'll mark it. It's like, it's not realistic to expect that, particularly when you're bombing it not to their advantage. You hear often about, move the ball quick, get it one-on-one, then, they're a good chance. But we were, moving the ball slowly, and then it was, 1-on-3, and you still expect him to mark, and if he doesn't mark it, to actually take it to advantage. I mean, I just think that's a really lazy piece of analysis.
Well, it also comes back to what we talked about previously, about where, with Cox in there, the delivery into the forward line becomes very predictable.
Yeah.
Now that you just don't know, hopefully it goes back to like what it used to be, where you don't know who's going to bob up each week and kick a bag. And that person could be the dominant forward for the week, wonderful, but next week it could be someone else. Again, it makes it that unpredictableness that actually worked in our favour. So I think there is benefit in being Cox free at the moment.
I think if they play Cox,
I don't hate Cox by any stretch, but
really,
that's a statement.
I mean, Cox is not going to play this year, but if they play him again, they really need to just be conscious of, treat him like any other size forward. We're still going to kick to the lead. I mean, the game everyone looks at with Cox is the preliminary final. He wasn't outmarking 10 people at a time. No, he was on the lead. And people are sort of going, "Oh, why can't he get back to that?" It's like, well, have you seen him kick to the lead? The one game they did it against West Coast, he kicked, 4? So, you can do it if you use him correctly, but that's any forward, any tall forward. If you're just bombing it and hoping for the best...
Bombing it means he's got about 3 blokes hanging off it, and it just doesn't work.
Anyway, finally, rumours are that Josh Jenkins from Adelaide wants to come to Collingwood.
Oh, it's a shame.
Would you take him?
If he was 10 years younger, probably. Look, he'd be 31, 32 next year. He's struggling at the moment. As an insurance thing, if you got him for $10 a year or pick 98 or whatever it is, you'd probably entertain it just to sit there and maybe be a fallback key forward, but I really just wouldn't see him getting too many opportunities with us.
Okay, I'll just say no. Don't take him. I don't want him. Say that. Look, I remember the legendary Hot Rod said when we got Jesse White, Collingwood gets Jesse White, Sydney gets Buddy Franklin. It's like, what's wrong with this picture? Can we just stop going for the money ball players and actually, if you're going to go for a forward, go throw some money and picks and give up a player if you need it. Like, for example, let's just say hypothetically, you could give up Scharenberg and your first round pick and get Darcy Fogarty. Would you do it?
Probably.
So you're thinking about that. But that's the thing I'm saying, that Fogarty looks like he's going to be a really good player at the very least. I'm tired of, no offence to Jesse White and Quinton Leach and all these sort of guys. Can we actually go after players who are really good at their roles and in the top echelon of players, rather than look at these moneyball players because they're going to feel a perceived role in the structure? It doesn't work, and it's insane. And people point at Lee Brown. Well, Lee Brown was playing behind Travis Cloak, was the best power forward in the league, and Chris Dawes was coming up at that time and playing pretty well, and Lee Brown was playing statistically a position where he didn't have to produce a lot. He was just there to provide a contest, and to be fair, to be honest, Lee Brown was actually a pick 6. He was a pretty smart footballer. He had neat skills. He could kick goals. He could take it. So he could actually do all that pretty well.
He was a thug too.
Yeah, and that was great. He was like, people forget that about Lee Brown. And they got Quinton Leach later, and then they got Jesse White, who played the Lee Brown role. It's like, not one of them, with no disrespect intended to him, but not one of them had Lee Brown's presence on the field. Lee Brown was the sort of guy who walked around, everyone, all his teammates sort of went, you know what, I can mouth off to play opposition now because Lee's there, and, he
was like Liberty Valance.
Yeah, anyway, we'll be back with the match preview.
Oh, we got one more, haven't we?
Yep.
You beauty.
We're back with the match preview. We've got one more, haven't we?
One more match preview?
Yeah.
Hopefully we've got about 7 more.
So, the VFL had the bye.
Yeah. Did they?
Apparently, yeah, I know. Moore, Sy and Wells are all pushing for selection. Darcy Moore has been training as a ruck forward. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. There's still part of me that's more comfortable with him down in defence, and I don't know how much he could be a disruptive force up forward. The simple thing is, if it's quickly not working, you can swap it round, I guess.
Or not Buckley. He'll take about 4 weeks to swap it back around.
That's why I said you could do it that way. I'd prefer him back in defence.
And keep Roughhead forward.
Depends on matchups.
I've always said I prefer more up forward. I think there's a lot more upside to him as a forward than there is as a fullback. I don't think he's being used well as a defender. I've kept saying it. I don't think he should be being played on the best opposition forward, which is the way they've been using him. If they're going to use him in defence, he should be played on like the 4th or 5th forward and be used as the cut-off guy, interceptor, the third man up. Mm-hmm. And I think he would totally blitz that role. And, excel at it the way Josh Gibson did and Dustin Fletcher did and those sort of guys. That's, I think, I can't remember who said it, but you should play your players in a role where you're getting the most out of their capacity, rather than what I think when you're playing more as a fullback, you're saying, well, you got to bring down a lot of that attacking flair and shit just to be a bit more dour and to mind this guy. I think that's right. Tyler Brown, Josh Dacos, Ben Crocker were apparently amongst the emergencies. I thought Dacos was concussed, but he's apparently in the emergency. I don't know how the hell that works. Let me ask you something before we look at Essendon. Essendon's pretty injury-riddled. They got smashed twice and they beat Fremantle on the road. Zaha Arcus is probably out for the year. Where do you think it's better to finish? So it's going to depend on results. We have to win to be a top 4 possibility. If we lose, that's it. We can't drop beneath 5th. The teams below us can move. Where do you think it's better for us to finish? In the top 4 or from 5th?
You would look, and I've said this before, logically you think 4, because there's still that week off and that double chance type scenario. However, though, I think the way that we are, and with the 3 potentially gun players we're bringing back in, there's going to be some benefit and continuity in playing. Assuming you keep winning, to keep some sort of momentum going rather than stop-start. So we're going to have this week's game, then a break, then qualifying final, you win that, there's another break. So essentially you're only playing, 2 games of footy in about 3... 4 weeks or whatever the breakdown is. I think for us it'd be better just to have that run going, and I think we'd have a better shot at it. Now you look back in, was it 2017 when the Dogs won the flag? 16, sorry. They had a heap of injuries going into that final series, and
that week off brought them all back.
Yep, and then they played from outside of the 4 and won the flag that year.
7.
And so that I think there's benefit in that continuity and running forward to gather momentum, to get some confidence and stop the stop-start. I don't think the stop-start's going to benefit. If we come in to this carrying the list that the squad that we wanted to get out in the park, and a few of them like Grundy were tired and that, then there'd be benefit in having that break. But I think where we're at, we'd almost have more benefit from playing outside of the 4. And I think probably it's going to work out that way anyway. We're going to finish 5th. The other thing too would be that I'd be concerned of is probably 4th is as good as we could go, I believe. And let's assume if West Coast finish up top, there's a chance we'd be travelling over there.
So West Coast have Hawthorn, and Hawthorn's playing for a spot in the 8. Hawthorn, they've been really up or down, so you don't know what they're going to produce. West Coast lost to Richmond. Richmond's got Brisbane here, I believe. So, the permutations are
it's all over the place.
Pretty much anyone can finish first in that top 4.
Because potentially, if you took it from a flip perspective...
From those top 3 teams.
If Brisbane finished top, or stayed on top, and we 4th and travelled up there, I'd be a lot more confident than facing West Coast over there. And the thing, is we take Noble with us. We don't lose with him when we play interstate. His record's untouchable. I just think we'd be a better chance under some permutation. But on that side, the other side, I'm still probably more likely to think that if we don't make the 4, there's an enormous benefit there to it.
Right, so I'm just looking at it from a point of view. It's really going to depend on their prognosis for guys like the Goey-in-law. Stevenson's going to come back regardless because he's not injured. If the Goey is not going to come back, because they're saying now he may not even be back for the first final, which is, if that is the case, Collingwood, thank you for your injury management. There's no fucking issue there whatsoever. Then it'd be better if they finished 4th and they won, and they gave him a bigger break to come back to, and then played him as a pinch hitter. But if they got him back for the first final, and this is assuming, I know it's a big assumption, but assuming that everyone stays fit and upright, I'd rather finish 5th and then get that run on that continuity. That week's break totally undermines the advantage of finishing top 4 and winning the first final and then getting another week's break. I think there's always a risk that, you have that one game in 3 weeks and it's like you're just running the risk of losing form, of players coming out cold, of players doing injury because they've been resting and shit like that. I'd rather just keep playing. Okay. Now, big question is, Moore is pushing for selection. Stevenson will be back. Let's assume the Goey will be back. Who are the 3 players you toss? So you'd have to assume that Magden's going to go.
Yeah, Noble would make way.
And Noble's the other one. Who would be the 3rd? I don't think you can get rid of Wills because I think he's just become integral to that.
No, I think you got to persist with the 2 inside mids. He'd be probably under some question mark though, I would think.
Who's that?
Wills. Just purely for lack of experience, maybe.
He's probably,
Brown is the other one that keeps, but he's...
So Wills is about his experience of Silas going into the finals.
Well, that's a good point.
Would they drop Scharenberg?
I don't think so. I think he's doing more than enough at the moment.
But I'm just looking for their... So, alright, so if you bring in the Goey and Stevenson, that's 2 forwards, and I think the Goey's going to be playing as a mid, and you bring in Moore, who's a forward or a defender. Whichever way, it's negligible, because probably Moore and Rufford are going to play at opposite ends now because of the way we're structured without Cox there. So you're going to be losing, or bringing in 2 forwards, and possibly a defender. So you're going to have to get rid of possibly a defender and possibly 2 defenders.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'd drop Berg. And certainly Main on the other side, I don't think they'd get rid of him, even though he's been a bit patchy. He was good this week, but...
Well, a lot of the guys who have been under the microscope the last whole year, last 3 weeks, they've actually come up and played really well. So I thought that was Main's best game for a while. Varco, I was ready to retire him a month ago. He's now looking like a dangerous forward. Josh Thomas, looked hopelessly out of form. Now he's looking dangerous again.
So they should. I mean, there's finals coming up.
Yeah.
None of these guys are playing just to fill spots, surely. They all want to keep in this side, and they must know that a couple of them are going to face the chop. But yeah, I'd say, look, definitely Magden and
Noble.
But yeah, then really could be anyone. I mean, maybe they're just assuming there'll be another injury.
Oh, well, that's not an assumption. I think that's just a certainty.
A factuality.
I mean, with the Goey, I just don't think he's got the fitness to play in midfield. So I don't think he can actually...
And he'd be more dangerous up forward.
Yeah, so I think Wills is really integral to that midfield structure now, the way they've built it. And that's the same thing that side did last. And Pendlebury also is another one who's looked a lot better since they got Adams and Wills in the middle. So all those guys who should be on the outside are now on the outside and creating, while Wills and Adams are doing the dirty work. And both those guys really relished the physical stuff. I mean, Wills showed like a bit of mongrel where he was getting in people's faces and that sort of stuff. You heard Chamberlain telling him, keep your hands to yourself, Rupert. Because he was, I don't know. He was pushing someone.
Now, Rupert.
And there was one, I can't remember, but there was one stage where he was like pushing someone, and like the guy was getting into it, and Will's just doing that, like that Monkhurst smile, like, who do you think you are? You think I'm scared of you? Which I actually think the team lacks mongrel, so if that's what he's going to show, then I'll definitely always champion him being in the side.
Yeah, look, it's not an easy one to make, which is, probably not a bad thing, really.
For a change. Match against Essendon Friday night. Their form is hard to read. They had like a number of good wins against odds, but as Matthew Lloyd also pointed out, goes, well, they're also a little bit misleading because they were coming from behind and winning by a kick or 2. So how good are they?
They can't drop out of the 8, can they?
No, they're now in there.
Yeah,
so
it's not unusual to see sides cotton wool a little bit in this.
Well, they've got a lot of injuries, so
you can't afford to go out and go too hard.
I mean,
they may roll over.
I was going to say, this might be enough for them just to get that far because they've been out of the finals since what?
Well, they want to win.
Nice.
They want to win a final. They haven't won a final for about 80 years.
I think just showing up's enough from at the moment.
And they may just take it easy in order to regroup for the first final, and which we may end up playing them again.
Oh, could. I mean, there's a few games that might end up happening again, but yeah, it's going to depend on results. But all right, so what's your tip?
I think we'll win by probably 70 points.
I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, come on, this is the last home and away preview for the year. 70 points.
So you got 90?
89 points. 89. Anyway, that's it from us. I'll subscribe, stuff like that. Leave comments.
All the usual.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, hopefully by now. And we'll see you next week, hopefully with some good news.
And some smiles.
Hopefully those two. Later.
Yeah, we're
Still
blarned.
play that much.
Can't believe you said 89 points. Should have said 98.
117 points.
17, huh?